ExamPrep.School. Wyoming Title Insurance Agent Exam code 12-WY-83 or OP-WY-83. There are 5 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Legal descriptions, methods of transfer or conveyances, real estate ownership, rights and interests, search and examination of title, settlement and closing procedure, title insurance policies, title insurance terms and concepts, title producer regulation, Wyoming insurance laws and regulations, Wyoming record keeping, rate, and form filing rules. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. Which of the following elements is not required to enforce a restrictive covenant as an equitable servitude against a successor in interest? A. Touch and concern the land. B. Intent for the covenant to bind successors. C. Notice of the covenant. D. Consideration in the original covenant instrument. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is D. Equitable servitudes require intent, notice, and touch and concern the land, but they do not require separate consideration in the original covenant instrument. Reason A is not correct. Touch and concern is a core element ensuring the covenant affects the land itself, so it is required. Reason B is not correct. Intent that the covenant binds successors is essential to create enforceable equitable servitudes. Reason C is not correct. Notice to successors is necessary so that purchasers are aware of the restriction. Question 2. Under common law easement by prescription, which of the following is not a standard requirement for acquiring a prescriptive easement? A. Continuous use for the statutory period. B. Exclusive use by the claimant. C. Open and notorious use. D. Hostile adverse use without permission. The correct answer is B. Prescriptive easements require continuous, open, and notorious and hostile use, but exclusivity of use is not universally required. Reason A is not correct. Continuous use for the statutory period is a core element necessary to establish prescription. Reason C is not correct. The use must be open and notorious so that the servient owner can discover it. Reason D is not correct. Hostile or adverse use without permission is required to satisfy the prescriptive standard. Question 3. A property owner obtained a mortgage from Bank A on April 1st and recorded it the same day. Construction on improvements commenced on June 1st. The owner then obtained and recorded a second mortgage from Bank B on June 15th. A materials supplier who began delivering supplies on June 10th recorded a mechanics lien on July 1st. According to Wyoming mechanics lien priority rules, the supplier's lien has priority over which encumbrance? A. The mortgage from Bank A recorded April 1st. B. The current year's property tax lien. C. A judgment lien recorded May 1st. D. The mortgage from Bank B recorded June 15th. The correct answer is D. Under Wyoming law, a mechanics lien relates back to the date construction commenced, June 1st. Any encumbrance recorded after that date, including the Bank B mortgage recorded June 15th, is subordinate to the mechanics lien. Reason A is not correct. The Bank A mortgage was recorded before construction commenced and therefore holds senior priority. Reason B is not correct. Property tax liens for the current year are statutory liens that are superior to mechanics liens. Reason C is not correct. The judgment lien recorded before the commencement of improvements is senior to the mechanics lien. Question 4. Which of the following is not a requirement for the recordation of a Wyoming warranty deed? A. The original deed bearing the grantee's signature. B. Acknowledgement of the grantor's signature before a notary public. C. A legal description sufficient to identify the property. D. Payment of all applicable recording fees at the time of filing. The correct answer is A. The grantor's signature with a notarial acknowledgement, a sufficient legal description, and payment of recording fees are required for recordation. The grantee's signature is not required under Wyoming law. Reason B is not correct. This is required because Wyoming statutes mandate a notarial acknowledgement of the grantor's signature for recordation. Reason C is not correct. This is required so that the deed clearly identifies the property being conveyed for recording purposes. Reason D is not correct. This is required because counties will not accept a deed for recording without payment of the proper fees. Question 5. On January 5th, a homeowner mortgages a property to Alex Watson but does not record. On February 1st, the homeowner grants a second mortgage on the same property to Bank of Wyoming. Bank of Wyoming records on February 2nd, and Watson records on February 3rd. Under Wyoming's Recording Act, which mortgage has priority? A. Alex Watson's mortgage. B. Bank of Wyoming's mortgage. C. Neither mortgage has priority until a court order. D. Both mortgages share equal priority. The correct answer is B. This option is correct because a subsequent mortgagee for value who records first without notice of an unrecorded prior mortgage prevails under Wyoming's race notice recording statute. Reason A is not correct. A first-in-time interest is defeated by a subsequent bona fide mortgagee who records first without notice under a race notice statute. Reason C is not correct. Priority is established by recording order and notice, not by a court order in Wyoming's recording system. Reason D is not correct. Wyoming's Recording Act does not split priority equally between competing mortgagees. Question 6. Within an ALT. A title insurance commitment, Schedule A and Schedule B delineate distinct information. Which of the following best characterizes the content of Schedule B? A. Specific exclusions and exceptions to coverage that the insurer will not insure. B. Legal property description and vesting details of the proposed insured. C. Pre-issuance requirements and conditions that must be fulfilled before policy issuance. D. Optional endorsements and expanded coverage modifications available to the insured. The correct answer is A. Schedule B of the commitment enumerates the exceptions and exclusions to coverage that will be omitted from the policy unless removed, distinguishing it from Schedule A, which specifies the insured parties, policy amount, and property description. Reason B is not correct. This description corresponds to Schedule A content, not the exceptions listed in Schedule B. Reason C is not correct. Pre-issuance requirements are set out in Schedule B1, but Schedule B overall refers to exceptions rather than conditions. Reason D is not correct. Endorsements and modifications are not contained in Schedule B, which is focused on exceptions. Question 7. Which of the following is a standard exception in a title insurance policy that pertains specifically to parties in possession? A. Rights of individuals occupying the land under unrecorded instruments. B. Rights under recorded easements across the property. C. Claims related to unrecorded municipal code violations. D. Rights of creditors under recorded mortgages. The correct answer is A. Standard title policy exceptions include rights of parties in possession under unrecorded instruments, excluding those unrecorded interests from coverage. Other items, such as recorded easements or mortgages, are part of the public record and typically insured. Reason B is not correct. Recorded easements are matters of public record and are insured rather than accepted. Reason C is not correct. Municipal code violations are generally not standard exceptions in a title policy. Reason D is not correct. Rights under recorded mortgages appear in public records and are covered by the policy. Question 8. under an ALT. A owner's policy of title insurance covered risk to sue protects the insured against loss arising from which of the following? A. A recorded easement granting a neighbor right-of-way across the land. B. An encroachment of a neighbor's fence onto the insured premises. C. A contractor's lien that was never recorded in the public records. D. A forged signature on a deed already recorded in the chain of title. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is a contractor's lien never recorded in the public records, because covered risk 2 specifically insures against unrecorded liens or encumbrances that could impair ownership rights. Reason A is not correct. A recorded easement is shown in the public record and would be addressed under covered risk 1 rather than risk 2. Reason B is not correct. An encroachment is a physical intrusion and is covered under a different listed risk, not risk 2's focus on unrecorded liens. Reason D is not correct. A forged signature on a recorded deed is a defect in the public record and falls under covered risk 1, not risk 2. Question 9. A purchaser acquires a fee simple estate and receives an ALT, a owner's policy dated January 15th, 2023, which lists no exceptions for mortgages or deeds of trust. On March 10th, 2023, a deed of trust executed by the seller is recorded by a purported lender. The deed's acknowledgement was made by a notary commissioned in another state and is therefore invalid under Wyoming law. The purchaser incurs legal fees to clear the unacknowledged deed of trust. Under covered risk 5 of the owner's policy, how will the insurer respond? A. Deny coverage because the deed of trust was not listed in Schedule B of the policy. B. Indemnify the purchaser for defense costs and expenses incurred to remove the invalidly acknowledged deed of trust. C. Reimburse any amounts paid to the lender to satisfy the deed of trust, regardless of its invalid acknowledgement. D. Disclaim coverage because a recorded instrument automatically becomes a valid encumbrance once placed of record. The correct answer is B. The policy covers loss resulting from an encumbrance that is invalid due to defective execution or acknowledgement when that encumbrance is not accepted in Schedule B. Insurer must pay costs to clear the invalid deed of trust under covered risk 5. Reason A is not correct. Unscheduled defects in execution or acknowledgement of instruments are covered because no exception for the deed of trust appears in Schedule B. Reason C is not correct. Reimbursement of amounts paid to a lender is not appropriate when the deed is invalid. Coverage instead focuses on defense and clearing expenses. Reason D is not correct. Recording a loan does not validate an instrument. The policy specifically insures against losses from instruments invalid by lack of proper acknowledgement. Question 10. In the context of title insurance, what is the primary purpose of the CLTA 100 series endorsements when attached to a loan policy? A. To ensure compliance with federal lending regulations on loan origination fees. B. To allocate closing costs between the borrower and lender in accordance with state law. C. To provide a detailed survey of property boundaries and identify potential encroachments. D. To supplement the base policy by insuring against certain specified risks not covered in the standard form. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is that these endorsements expand the standard loan policy by adding coverage for particular title risks that are excluded in the basic form, enhancing protection for identified matters. Reason A is not correct. This addresses federal lending fee regulations unrelated to title coverage enhancements. Reason B is not correct. This choice describes cost allocation procedures which are not functions of title insurance endorsements. Reason C is not correct. This describes a land survey process rather than an insurance coverage modification. Question 11. A lender purchases a loan policy with the ALTA 9 restrictions, encroachments, minerals endorsement attached. After closing, the borrower is prohibited from constructing a commercial garage by a municipal zoning ordinance. Which of the following scenarios would fall outside the limits of the ALTA 9 restrictions coverage? A. The borrower is barred from adding a second-story balcony due to a recorded building height covenant. B. The borrower cannot subdivide the lot as per a dedication shown on the public record plat. C. The borrower is prohibited by a city zoning ordinance from building a commercial garage. D. The borrower is restricted from erecting fences over 6 feet tall by a recorded deed covenant. The correct answer is C. The ALT-09 endorsement covers enforcement of contracts, covenants, and restrictions of public record. It does not ensure compliance with governmental zoning ordinances, so a municipal zoning prohibition is excluded from its scope. Reason A is not correct. Enforcement of a recorded building height covenant is within the endorsement's coverage, so it would not fall outside its limits. Reason B is not correct. Recorded plat dedications are contractual restrictions of public record and are insured by the endorsement, making this scenario covered. Reason D is not correct. A recorded deed covenant limiting fence height is exactly the type of restriction the endorsement covers, so it is not outside the limits. Question 12. Under an ALT A32 construction mortgage coverage endorsement, which of the following risk is insured with respect to the insured construction mortgage? A. Mechanics liens for labor or materials provided before the policy effective date under the insured construction mortgage. B. Mechanics liens for labor or materials provided after the policy effective date under the insured construction mortgage. C. Losses arising under the insured construction mortgage from enforcement of zoning regulations that prohibit completion of improvements. D. Losses arising under the insured construction mortgage from the borrower's default under the insured construction loan agreement. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is mechanics liens for labor or materials provided after the policy effective date under the insured construction mortgage because ALTA 32 specifically extends coverage to liens arising from work or materials supplied post-effective date. Other listed risks fall outside the endorsement scope. Reason A is not correct. Coverage under this endorsement does not apply to liens for work or materials supplied before the policy effective date. Reason C is not correct. The endorsement addresses mechanics lien risks, not zoning regulation enforcement or completion prohibitions. Reason D is not correct. Coverage is limited to mechanics lien exposures and does not insure against borrower default under the loan agreement. Question 13. During a June 1st closing of a construction loan, financing a 6-phase residential project, the most recent ALTA survey available is dated April 15th. The lender requires continuous survey coverage for monthly interim draws through project completion. Which ALTA endorsement should be attached to the loan policy to satisfy the down date survey requirement for these interim draws? A. ALT A endorsement 3.2, down date survey endorsement. B. ALTA endorsement 3.1, modifications to the standard survey exception. C. ALTA endorsement 9, survey protection endorsement. D. ALTA endorsement 17, water boundary determination endorsement. The correct answer is A. This endorsement reinstates survey coverage by backdating the policy to the date of the last survey and extends coverage through subsequent interim draws, ensuring continuous protection. Reason B is not correct. This modification only alters the standard survey exception for existing improvements at policy issuance and does not extend coverage to interim construction draws. Reason C is not correct. The survey protection endorsement covers changes to legal descriptions but does not backdate coverage for ongoing construction draws. Reason D is not correct. This endorsement addresses water boundary determinations and has no effect on maintaining survey coverage over successive interim draws. Question 14. Under National Abstractor Certification Standards, an individual seeking certification must fulfill which of the following requirements? A. Complete at least 20 hours of title industry experience and achieve a minimum exam score of 80%. B. Complete no minimum training hours but possess 2 years of supervised abstracting experience. C. Complete at least 60 hours of independent study and achieve a minimum exam score of 70%. D. Complete at least 40 hours of approved title abstracting training and achieve a minimum exam score of 75%. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is completion of at least 40 hours of approved training, combined with achieving at least a 75% score on the certification exam, which aligns precisely with National Abstractor certification requirements. Reason A is not correct. Specifying only 20 hours of industry experience and an 80% exam score is incorrect, because the training requirement and passing score are both understated compared to national standards. Reason B is not correct. Omitting mandatory training hours in favor of 2 years of experience is incorrect because approved training is a non-waivable requirement under national guidelines. Reason C is not correct. Requiring 60 hours of independent study with a 70% passing score is incorrect because national standards mandate approved training hours and a higher minimum score. Question 15. A title examiner for a Wyoming agency is conducting a title search on a rural Teton County property after reviewing the firm's title plant. The plant, last updated 1 month ago, shows no mortgages or releases recorded on the property within the past 25 years but does not include judgment or tax lien dockets. To ensure a comprehensive title search, the examiner should A. Prepare a title commitment relying solely on the plant's mortgage and release indices. B. Contact the county assessor to obtain certified lien abstracts for the past 30 years. C. Query the statewide electronic document repository for all recorded liens and encumbrances. D. Physically inspect the county clerk's judgment and federal tax lien dockets for any filings affecting the property. The correct answer is D. This option is correct because a title plant may omit certain dockets, such as judgments and tax liens, and physically searching those official dockets ensures all encumbrances are identified. Reason A is not correct. Relying solely on mortgage and release indices ignores judgment and tax lien dockets that could affect title. Reason B is not correct. The county assessor maintains property value records, not comprehensive lien abstracts, so this would not reveal judgment or tax liens. Reason C is not correct. The statewide repository may not capture local judgment or tax lien filings, especially in rural counties. Question 16. When preparing an abstract of title, deeds are conventionally summarized in which of the following ways? A. In chronological order by the date of execution shown on each deed. B. In reverse chronological order by the date of recordation listed in county records. C. In chronological order by the date of recordation as noted in the public records. D. Alphabetically by the grantee's surname. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is based on the standard method of listing instruments in an abstract by the sequence in which they were officially recorded in the public record. Reason A is not correct. This is incorrect because abstracts use the recording date rather than the date the document was executed. Reason B is not correct. This is incorrect because the sequence follows earliest to latest recordation dates, not the reverse order. Reason D is not correct. This is incorrect because alphabetical order by grantee is not the accepted practice for organizing an abstract of title. Question 17. During preparation of the abstract for Lot 7 of Pinecrest Subdivision, the title examiner notes a recorded plat showing a 15-foot drainage easement along the rear lot line. However, a separate instrument recorded later vacates that portion of the drainage easement. In applying cross-referencing plat restrictions, what is the examiner's proper course of action? A. Remove the drainage easement from exceptions and note that it was vacated by the subsequent instrument. B. Retain the drainage easement in the abstracts exception section and omit any reference to the vacating instrument. C. Show the drainage easement as an exception and require purchaser's acknowledgement despite the vacating instrument. D. Continue to treat the drainage easement per the plat and list the vacating instrument as a separate unresolved matter. The correct answer is A. The subsequent vacating instrument supersedes the original easement, so it must be removed from exceptions in the vacating document noted. Reason B is not correct. Omitting reference to the vacating instrument fails to reflect the current encumbrance status and misrepresents title. Reason C is not correct. Requiring purchaser acknowledgement despite vacation misleads the buyer about the existence of an easement that no longer applies. Reason D is not correct. Listing the vacating instrument as unresolved creates an unnecessary cloud since it clearly releases the easement. Question 18. During a Wyoming residential title examination, the examiner notes the seller signed the deed as Robert A. Smith, while all previous records show Robert Allen Smith, with no recorded alias. To cure this identity defect via a curative affidavit of identity, which element is essential in the affidavit? A. A notarized statement listing the property's tax parcel identification numbers. B. A clear declaration of the variant name and the legal name, including execution date and notary acknowledgement. C. A witness affidavit confirming the seller's current residential address. D. A certified copy of a judicial order authorizing the use of the alias. The correct answer is B. A curative affidavit of identity must specifically recite both the variant and legal names, include the date of execution, and bear a proper notary acknowledgement under Wyoming law. Other details like tax parcel numbers, witness attestations of address, or court orders are not required for a simple name variation affidavit. Reason A is not correct. Listing tax parcel numbers is not a statutory requirement for curing a name variation identity defect. Reason C is not correct. A witness affidavit of residence does not satisfy the statutory elements of an identity affidavit. Reason D is not correct. A judicial order is unnecessary when an affidavit of identity alone suffices for simple name variations. Question 19. Which of the following best defines a fee simple absolute indefeasible title? A. A freehold estate that automatically terminates and reverts to the grantor upon violation of a condition. B. A freehold estate subject to a condition subsequent that allows the grantor to reclaim title by right of entry. C. The most complete unconditional freehold estate unlimited in duration and not subject to defeasance. D. An estate measured by the life of an individual, ending at that individual's death with a remainder or reversion. The correct answer is C. This estate represents the fullest ownership interest in the land, granting indefeasible title with no future conditions or limitations on duration. Reason A is not correct. This describes a fee simple determinable which automatically forfeits upon breach of condition. Reason B is not correct. This describes a fee simple subject to a condition subsequent, requiring affirmative action to reclaim title. Reason D is not correct. This describes a life estate which ends at the death of the measuring life rather than lasting indefinitely. Question 20. Which unity of joint tenancy mandates that all joint tenants receive their interest through the same instrument or conveyance? A. Unity of time. B. Unity of possession. C. Unity of interest. D. Unity of title. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is unity of title because it requires joint tenants to receive their interests through the same conveyance. Unity of time concerns simultaneous acquisition. Unity of interest refers to identical shares and duration, and unity of possession ensures equal rights to occupy the entire property. Reason A is not correct. Unity of time refers to taking interest at the same moment, not the method of conveyance. Reason B is not correct. Unity of possession concerns equal rights to occupy, not the instrument used to convey title. Reason C is not correct. Unity of interest pertains to equal shares and duration, not how title is acquired. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below, we read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.